Hello everyone and welcome to Medford Anywhere Learning TV. We're glad you're tuned in. We want to give a shout out to our friends at Southern Oregon PBS, KTVL, KDRV, and the Dove Network. Thank you for hosting us on your station. In the Medford School District, we have one shared vision, and that we believe that all are learning, and learning is for all. And what better place to do that than right here on Medford Anywhere Learning TV.
Hi, my name is Tracy Titus, and I teach 4th grade at Oak Grove Elementary School.
And I'm Zoe Boyles. I teach 1st grade at Oak Grove.
And today we are going to be taking a journey through the creative thinking process where we will problem solve, generate ideas, and be creative.
You know, Ms. Titus, it feels like we're right next to each other.
I know, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I know that if I wanted to pass through this Lego, I would have to reach really far to do it.
And we're really not because we're social distancing.
Yeah.
See?
Wow. Good for us.
So we are going to go through creative thinking, the process of how to use your brain to creatively think. It's a big task, but it's super fun. It's one of my passions. I love to be creative. I love to use my imagination. So Miss Boyles and I want to bring that to you today in your homes, how to creatively think. So Miss Boyles is going to have a graphic organizer to record our creative thinking processes. So if you can see, that's a tree map, and it's a way to organize information. So it helps us visually process what creative thinking is all about. So we're going to start with the first process, and it's called fluency. So you can be thinking, maybe you've heard the word fluency before when you've been reading and your teacher has said, read fluently, and you can read all the words at a certain rate. Well, we're going to take fluency, this big idea, and we're going to use it in creativity. So there are things like generating ideas, where you can come up with lots of ideas about a topic. So you would have a topic, and then you would come up with all these ideas. I know you guys are smart, and I know you know how to brainstorm. Brainstorm is another way that you can show fluency of thought, where you come up with lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas. You've probably done brainstorming with your teacher in the process of writing. So where you're coming up with lots of ideas. It's kind of like holding an umbrella and then all the raindrops coming down, where you're just thinking, thinking, thinking. There's all these possibilities. Possibilities is another way of fluency of thought, coming up with all the possible ways to creatively think. So in going off of fluency, I have a big idea for us to explore today, and it's the topic of fairy tales. Miss Boyles and I love fairy tales. So Miss Boyles, what do you think a fairy tale is?
Well, I know when I teach it in my 1st grade classroom, we learn that it is a story that's made up, and it usually has magic in it, and a lot of times it has characters like animals that can talk.
Wow, that is a great answer. You've probably read some fairy tales, Miss Boyles.
I have.
So you're right. I'm going to piggyback off of that thinking. They often begin with once upon a time or long ago. They often have royalty, like characters with kings and queens and princes and princesses. And the setting is usually in some enchanted forest or a cabin or a faraway place. You're right. They often do contain magic. And they often have good characters and bad characters, good versus evil. And they often have, my favorite, a happy ending. So you're right. So we're going to take this big idea of fairy tales, and we're going to go through this process, starting with fluency. So fairy tales are more than just entertainment. They teach us how to think. That's why we chose that big topic today. They grow our brains, and they help us use our imagination. So I want to share with you a quote from a very famous person. Maybe you've heard of him, a very wise person, Albert Einstein. It says, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. And if you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. Well, Miss Boyles, you seem to know a lot of knowledge about fairy tales.
I do.
So, in showing us what fluency of creativity looks like, I would love for you to use a mind map to show us all the fairy tales you can think of.
I can totally do that. So I am going to show today on my paper a way that you can build a mind map for yourself. And so this can also be what Miss Titus talked about earlier, kind of like brainstorming. So let's look at my paper here. And I'll show you how I'm going to create mine today. So I'm going to start with a big bubble in the middle. Kind of looks like a cloud. It starts with a bunch of arched lines. And in the middle, I'm going to write my topic. And Miss Titus gave me the challenge today to brainstorm or to do a mind map of as many fairy tales as I can think of. And so now I'm going to do straight lines that start at my cloud or at my brain and go all the way off the page. And I don't have to count them because the fun part is being challenged by how many spaces you create for yourself. So I'm going to go all the way around the page, making sure the lines are not intersecting, that they go straight. There's a bunch here. Oh man, I can't wait to add color to this when I'm done with my ideas. Okay, so now I have all of my sections, and now I'm going to take a marker, and in each section, I'm going to write one fairy tale that I can think of. So let me think. I have 2 boys at home. Which fairy tales do they know? Oh, we just watched this movie the other night, Snow White. Let's see, they love Thumbelina. And we have a lot of movies at home. So we have movies like Cinderella and, oh, Beauty and the Beast. That one's my favorite. Little Town, Beauty and the Beast. How about, I'm just rotating my map as I write the words. How about 3 Little Pigs? How about Little Red Riding Hood? These are books I love to read. Little Red Riding Hood. I think I'm going to get a different pen. This one's running out a little bit, and that's A-okay. How about, oh, my son's name is Jack, so I can't forget this one. Jack and the Beanstalk. That's a great one. And at home, you might be thinking of your own ideas, and that's A-okay. It's okay to have different ideas than the ones that I have. How about 3 Billy Goats? Gruff. The idea is just to generate. And so it's okay to not copy my ideas, but if mine are inspiring to you, then that's okay as well. Let's see, I have Rapunzel. And I'm going to turn it back this way. That way it's not upside down. How about Frog Prince? How about Rumpelstiltskin? Oh man, can I spell that? Rumpelstiltskin. I hope I spelled that right. And I'm having trouble thinking of some, but that's good. That means it's a challenge for my brain, right? Let me think back to some other movies that we have. How about, well, this is a book. I don't know if it counts, but how about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Lion, Witch, Wardrobe. Would you count that as a fairy tale? I hope so. Let me think. Miss Titus, do you have any others?
I am. I'm thinking of one. How
Yeah,
about
tell me.
Goldilocks and the 3 Bears?
That is a great one. Are there any others that you like to read to your students?
Oh, I do. My niece, this is not my student, but my niece
Yeah.
loves Cinderella.
Oh, perfect. I did already put Cinderella,
you
so
did put
that's good.
Cinderella?
How about
Mm.
Hansel and Gretel?
Hansel
Just
and
that-
Gretel is a good one.
And Gretel. I made a big challenge for myself having to fill all these in, but that means that we're getting creative because we're having to think of the ones that we maybe didn't come to mind the first time.
And you know, maybe at home you could fill in those last 2
I think that's a great
ideas with your
idea.
family, with your parents. Maybe you can sit there and think, What are some fairy tales? You know, a lot of
Yeah.
Disney are fairy tales they've taken and put into movies, right? Like Aladdin.
Oh, that's true.
So maybe you can be
Perfect.
thinking with your family.
I love that. So now that we've generated all of our ideas from our fluency mind map, it's time for us to pick one of these stories and focus in on it for the rest of our creative thinking process. So when I was going through here, I found one that I just so happened to have the story of, and it is The Three Little Pigs. And the story that I have for you today is called The Three Little Pigs, and it's retold and illustrated by James Marshall. Let's go ahead and read it together. The Three Little Pigs. Once upon a time, an old sow sent her 3 little pigs out into the world to seek their fortune. Now be sure to write, she said, and remember that I love you. The first little pig met a man with a load of straw. I know, said the little pig. I'll buy your straw and build a house. That's not a good idea, said the man. Mind your own business, thank you, said the little pig. And he bought the straw and set about building a house. It took him no time at all. Very soon, a lean and hungry wolf happened by. Pig was just about his favorite food in the world. So he knocked on the door and said, little pig, let me come in. To which the little pig replied, no, 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 not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. This annoyed the wolf to no end, and he said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. Go right ahead, said the little pig. So the wolf huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in, and he gobbled up the little pig. The second little pig met a man with a load of sticks. I've got it, said the little pig. I'll buy those sticks and build a house. I'd think twice about that, said the man. Oh, pooh, said the little pig. What would you know? And he bought the sticks and went to work building a house. Very pretty, he said. No sooner had the little pig settled into his pretty house than the wolf happened by. He was still hungry, and he said, little pig, let me come in. To which the little pig replied, no, 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 not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. The wolf didn't care for that at all, and he said, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. Ha ha ha, said the little pig. So the wolf huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in, and he gobbled up the little pig. Now the third little pig met a man with a load of bricks. These bricks will make a fine sturdy house, said the man. Capital idea, my good fellow, said the little pig. So he bought the bricks and set about building a house. It took him quite a bit of time, but it was well worth it. Nice and solid, said the little pig, nice and solid. But no sooner had the little pig moved in than he noticed the wolf loitering about. And the wolf, who was still hungry, said, little pig, let me come in. To which the little pig replied, no, 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 not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Well, said the wolf. The wolf had heard that before, and he said, then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. Oh, no, don't do that, said the little pig. But the wolf huffed and he puffed and he huffed and he puffed until he was quite blue in the face. The house stood firm. I'll try another approach, muttered the wolf. And he put on his most dazzling smile. Little pig, I was only teasing, he said. By the way, I hear tell that Farmer Jones has the most scrumptious turnips. Shall we go pick a few? Oh, I'm much too busy now, said the little pig. What about tomorrow morning? Excellent, said the wolf. I'll come for you at 6. The next morning, the little pig got up at 5, hurried off to Farmer Jones's turnip field, picked a basket full of scrumptious turnips, and dashed back home. When the wolf arrived at 6, the turnips were already boiling in the pot. "Sorry, I couldn't wait," said the little pig. The wolf tried not to show his displeasure. "No harm done," he said. "By the way, there is a lovely apple tree down in Merry Meadow. Shall we go help ourselves to a few apples?" "I must cook my turnips," said the little pig. "Let's meet there tomorrow morning." "Splendid," said the wolf. "Shall we say at 5?" The next morning, the little pig was up at 4 and went off for the apples. It took longer than he'd expected to reach Merry Meadow, and while busy gathering apples in the highest tree, he saw the wolf approaching. "Do try one of these," he called down, throwing an apple as far as he could see. When the wolf chased after the apple, the little pig shimmied down the tree and made it safely home. The next day, the wolf came again. Really, he was quite put out. "There's a fair today on Hog Hill," he said. "Would you care to go?" "Why don't we meet there?" said the little pig. "Would 3 o'clock suit you?" "Colossal," said the wolf. "3 it is." Just to make sure, he would be there at 2. At 1 in the afternoon, the little pig went to the fair and had a fine time, so fine that he lost track of the hour. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw the wolf coming up the hill. Without a minute to spare, the little pig jumped inside an empty butter churn and rolled down the hill toward the wolf. Well, the wolf was so scared, he ran all the way home. That evening, the wolf went to the little pig's house and told him how frightened he'd been by a great round thing that came down the hill. "Frightened you, did I?" said the little pig. "That great round thing was a butter churn, and I was inside." This was simply too much for the wolf to stand. "I've been nice long enough," he cried. "I'm going to eat you up right now." And he climbed onto the roof. When the little pig saw this, he put a big iron pot in the fireplace and quickly stoked the fire. "Here I come," cried the wolf. "Dinner time." "You can say that again," said the little pig, and he cooked the mean old wolf and gobbled him up. That was a great story. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Maybe you've heard some other versions of The Three Little Pigs, but this one by James Marshall, this adaptation, is a great example for the rest of the project that we're going to do today.
Well, thank you, Miss Boyles, for reading that great story of the Three Little Pigs. So, in our process of creative thinking, we're going to go back to our tree map and add the next type of creative thinking. So we started with fluency, that big idea where Miss Boyles listed all of the fairy tales she could think of, generating those ideas. And now we're going to move on to something called the flexibility. Flexibility of thinking is where you see things from a different perspective, a different point of view, a different pattern of thought. So this is challenging. So in using the idea, the big idea of the Three Little Pigs, we're going to dig just a little bit deeper into our characters, the pig and the wolf. Now, there are a lot of authors out there that have taken the idea of Three Little Pigs and they have written different perspectives, different characters, and their differing points of view. I want to share with you this example. This is the true story of the Three Little Pigs. And this is actually written from the wolf's perspective. So the story that Miss Boyles read was from the pig's perspective, their point of view, their perspective. They saw it through their eyes. So we, in this story, will see it from the wolf's perspective. So if you've never read this story, maybe you have it at home, maybe you can Google it, try to read it because it has a really interesting view. So flexibility of thought is taking characters or taking a different idea from the story and going a little bit deeper. So we're going to see things from a different perspective. We're going to have varied ideas. So in order to do that, I have a lot of questions that I want to ask the wolf and the pig. I want to see what their perspective was on the story of the three little pigs. All right, so here we are. We have some interviews to do. I have a very special guest today. The third pig from the story is joining us. Good afternoon, pig.
Hello.
So, in going along with flexibility, I have some questions to ask you. Do you
Okay.
feel okay with that?
Yes.
So, pig, why do you think your brother's houses fell down?
Well, I am the smartest pig, so I knew which materials would be the strongest.
Interesting. Good perspective.
Thank you.
What were you thinking when the wolf knocked on your door?
Oh, I knew that wolf was up to no good. He is a wolf after all. His intentions had to have been deceptive, that he wanted to try to eat me like he did my brothers.
Oh, interesting perspective. So, did you feel a little scared?
Yes, at first I did, but I also knew that I was much smarter than the wolf, so I knew that I could outsmart him.
Yeah, interesting perspective. So, in your opinion, do you think that the wolf was evil?
Yes, I do think that is a wolf's nature, to be evil. He was only doing what his brain told him to do, which was to eat pigs like me.
Interesting. So, if you were the wolf, how would you have had him open the door?
Oh, well, I am very smart. I probably would have lured him out with some of my homemade apple cookies.
You are one smart pig. I would totally have to agree with you. You are so smart.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today, pig. Have a great day.
Okay, see you later.
Wow, his perspective was really interesting. He was showing us an example of flexibility, thinking in a different way. So great. So now I want to introduce you to the big bad wolf. Hello, big bad wolf.
Hello.
I've got some questions for you today.
Yes.
So, from your perspective, from your point of view, do you think the pigs were good thinkers?
No, I am much smarter than all of those pigs. I was able to eat two of them, and the third one, it was just chance that he got away.
That's interesting. That is true. You did get to eat two of them.
Yes, I was very full.
So let's say, if you were those pigs, what would the word fear mean to you?
Oh, fear would mean that someone big and bad was on their way to hunt them down.
Do you think you're big and bad?
Yes, I'm the fiercest forest animal there is.
You are pretty scary. If you came to my door, I might be scared. I've got one last question for you. Are you the same wolf that was in Little Red Riding Hood?
I don't like to give all of my secrets away. What do you think?
That's a good thought. Boys and girls at home, what do you think? Do you think the wolf in the Three Little Pigs is the same wolf that was in Little Red Riding Hood? Thank you so much, Wolf.
Thank you.
Try to be nice. Well, boys and girls, that is an example of flexibility of thought from a story. I have a couple questions I want to ask you, and you can think with your family. You can generate your own questions. But let's say if you were to name the pigs, what would their names be? And if you were the pigs in the story, would you have done the same thing? Or if you were the wolf, would you have done the same thing? All right, boys and girls, we are going to add another piece to our creative thinking map, and it's called originality. Originality is where you get to be creative. It's where you get to build, and you get to come up with something that is unusual, an unusual idea. You get to have an ordinary thought. So we're going to take one thought from the Three Little Pigs, and that's the houses. The houses were a big idea. And so there was the pig that came up with the straw house and the stick house and then the brick house. And you can be thinking to yourself, which one was the strongest? Well, we kind of know, right? I bet you have it in your mind. Well, so in originality, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you design a new house that can withstand the huffing and puffing of the wolf? So if you think about what you have at home, look around. What are some things? And Miss Boyles is thinking, I know.
Yeah.
I know she's thinking because she has a house with lots of random supplies like maybe foil, maybe boxes, maybe straws. And you can think with your family what kind of things you could do to build a new house. That's using originality of thought.
Now, Miss Titus, we already know that straw and sticks didn't work. So these students should be thinking of something that is totally theirs, right? Something new.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Ms. Boyles, I know that you have built a house. Can you show us what random supplies you used to build a new house?
I can. So this is a house that was built for this project, and you could see we just used a box. It's got a cardboard box, and the lid flipped up, and we put just a bend in it to make it have a peaked roof. We put some slices in it to make it have these open windows. We had some extra foam paper that was sparkly, so it's got windows and doors. We found a little piece of round, like a little round rock that we put there as a door handle. And look at this cool paper we found that kind of looks like straw. So it almost looks like a roof. We even put some felt to build a chimney in this house. So all the different sides of the house, and you can see the bottom, look, it was just a box that we covered in some paper. So these are all materials that you might be able to find at your house to make your own Three Little Pigs version of a sturdier house.
Miss Boyles, that was a great design. You showed originality of thought in a very creative way. That was a great design. And you at home, I bet you are making something with your family that is super creative. And so once you're done building something and you think you have a good idea, just like Miss Boyles, I want you to be thinking of the next part of our creative thinking. It's elaboration and evaluation. Elaboration is where you would add, change, delete something from your original design. So you can be thinking, what in my house could act as the huffing and puffing of the wolf? I'm going to let you think about that one because you are probably more creative than I am and can think of something that you could actually test your house out with. So that's elaboration, adding something, testing it out. Evaluation is where you look at it, and with your family, you can ask yourself these questions. What are the pros? What are the cons? Remember, you want it to withstand some type of wind of huffing and puffing. So you can ask yourself, what worked really well? What could I do differently? Could I add something to it to make it stronger? Those are all really good things when you're using evaluation. You're looking at the things that make it strong, make it good, or you can improve upon.
So Miss Titus just explained the fourth step in this creative thinking process, which is elaboration, evaluation. And I have this great example of this house that we already created. Let's look at it and I'll talk to you about some of the ideas I have already about how to grow my original idea and make it even better. So on my house, I noticed that I have opening doors and windows, but that might not be good if I'm trying to make sure the house doesn't fall over. I also know that I have kind of an open roof right here. So when it comes to the wolf being able to blow it down, I think it could get picked up and carried away. So I might need to cover some of that and find a way to close my windows. I also made a house that is freestanding, and that could just get knocked off if it was going to be just on top of the earth, if this was a real house. So I might want to find a way to stabilize it and put it into the ground. Maybe I would use some pencils to poke through the cardboard box and make it stay into the ground, go all the way into the earth, and that would make it more stable. So those are just a few of the ideas that I'm reflecting on to change and add to my box that I could make it better. And that's part of that elaboration, evaluation process that Miss Titus just taught us about.
Thanks for tuning in to Medford Anywhere Learning TV. Medford School District is a place where all are learning, and learning is for all.